Hello, I'm Abu Laith. Welcome to another episode of the Wandering Middle Eastern Teacher. So today we have another special guest teacher. So today Miss Meredith Dunavant is joining us. Thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome.
So in a lot of these interviews, we've talked to people from elementary school, middle school, high school who have decade or more of experience. So today is going to be a little bit different. Meredith brings in some unique elements. So Meredith, you're just getting started in education. Can you explain, like, what is it you do on a daily basis? What's your life like in school?
Yeah, so my position is a little bit different than most of the teachers in my hallway. I am currently in the middle school, high school of my area. Oh, I froze. Can you hear me?
Hmm?
Okay. I'm the library media specialist, but I am more so a tutor and like a reading interventionist slash the website manager. So I have like a lot of different hats that I wear at my school. They essentially were like, young blood is here. Let's hand her a lot of things that we need. And so I've walked in and taken on quite a bit. So I tutor most of the kids that need a lot of tier 3 intervention. I don't know if you're familiar with that term. But essentially in like, can you hear me?
Yeah.
In like the public school system, tier 1, you just need like a little bit of modification. Tier 2, maybe some one-on-one. Tier 3, you probably need to be pulled out for some tutoring. And so I have tier 3 in my classroom throughout the day, different groups that teachers have selected, some students that are falling behind in specific standards. And so then I write lesson plans to kind of give them like an extra scoop, kind of what we call it, of what they need to kind of catch them up to speed so they can test better, and be it like, yeah, for them to like kind of gain more out of their classes. So that's kind of primarily what I do.
And why did you get into the field of education?
It was actually somewhat unexpected. I originally got my degree in education. And then right after getting my degree, I moved overseas, and worked with an NGO, and then unexpectedly came back to the US and needed a job and knew that my degree was in education. I mean, I got my degree because if I ever had to use it, like I love kids and I love teaching in a lot of capacities. And so, but didn't actually think I would actually end up in a classroom. But here we are. I actually said I got the degree and I was like, I probably won't ever use this, but I'm going to get the degree just in case. And I'm so thankful I did. So I stepped into it and I am loving it so far. So I found this job that's in a primarily low income community. It's kind of the underdog school in surrounding districts. So it's really neat to watch these kids that have so much potential, like really grow and grasp concepts. So
what do you feel like are some of the lessons you've learned from this very beginning of experience in teaching in a classroom?
This is a really simple example, but I think in any work context, whether it's Middle East, the States, any context, like working alongside your team of people is super important. Like, I think I've felt that big time by my staff at the school, where they've all just been like, hey, how can we help? Or how can we come alongside you? Like, what we can do. So they've been really sweet to do that and really model that for me. And so kind of being a team player, wherever you are, even as teachers, even though like you have a class with things you need to do personally to kind of keep your eyes out for what other teachers need, because everyone's got a lot on their plate. And I think it's just patience and grace, just seeing kids where they are. Kids just bring so much to the classroom. My kids bring a lot to the classroom. And so just kind of putting my lesson plan aside for a second. If kids are having a meltdown or needing a second just to breathe or have someone to talk to. Like, it's not just all about what I have planned. Like, it's so easy for me to get stuck in like, no, I've planned this, so we got to get this done so we can get to your standard. We got to move on, guys. Come on, let's get to it. And kids just carry a lot in. And so just the importance of being a safe person for them to trust and connect with, because they learn so much better when they feel like they can connect.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and that's definitely been an element. I think you're probably the fourth or the fifth teacher that's mentioned the
mhm.
importance of that safe, trusted space for any learning to happen, and
Yeah,
definitely for kids who have, for various reasons, some struggles. That's even more important that they don't feel
yeah.
intimidated just coming into the room. What things have you found have been effective in getting kids' attention or holding their attention, especially with COVID and all of these restrictions, regulations? What works?
Well, if we're talking COVID specific, if I'm being honest, our school itself is very family oriented just because it's a very small community. So all of these kids see each other inside and outside of the classroom and all kind of live in really close neighborhoods. They're all basically family and cousins and brothers and sisters. And so we wear masks, but they're not a social distance. They're in each other's lives
Mm-hmm.
regardless. And so as far as COVID restrictions at my school, there's not like as many of them. I do find, if I'm being honest, what gets my kids attention, if I cannot get anything else to work, is to promise them a snack the next day if they win the next day of their choice, and that always gets their attention, hands down, every time.
Hmm.
But I tend to actually turn a lot of things, even though they're middle school, high school, I turn a lot of things into competitions and games.
Uh-huh.
Because they're still kids, and I think that's a lot of what they're missing in their other classes. You know, you're supposed to be high school, middle school. It's all on paper. It's all
Mm-hmm.
on your Chromebook. Like it's all like a worksheet and a test and a quiz. And it's actually really fun to pull them from class and to make learning a little more exciting and a little more
Mm-hmm.
fun and pull out markers and make things like a competition. So I think my kids really enjoy that.
Is there a favorite, like, specific game that you used?
Let me think. Each one is different depending on
Mm-hmm.
what I did have my kids do a rap battle recently. We're reading through a
Oh,
book. So that was super fun. That's not applicable everywhere, but my kids are really good at rapping. And so we're reading a book right now, and based on the theme of the book, we're working on just grasping the concept of theme, because a
mm-hmm.
lot of them are saying just like what it means to really grasp, like, what is the theme, how can I identify a theme and summarize it into a concise, meaningful sentence, and like
Mm-hmm.
just talk about. And so split them into groups and had them write it, pick the beat, perform it, and they actually did really well, and they had super fun doing that. But other than that, my kids love Kahoot. um
I don't know what that is.
Kahoot is great. It's an online like game quiz where you set it up online. It's Kahoot.com, like
Uh-huh.
Kahoot.
Uh-huh.
And then they can get on their phones or computers or whatever and click the link. And then each question, it's an assessment and it's a quiz, but it's a competition because you have to be the first one to hit it. You
Ah.
get and you win. And so my kids get super into that. They love Kahoot.
That is cool. Great idea. I've never heard of that, but I will definitely look into that in the future.
Yeah, Kahoot is super fun. It comes with fun music, and you rank up. You see the scoreboard after each question,
Uh-huh.
and so it's like it's up in a really fun way. So I like Kahoot a lot.
Very cool. Good suggestion. We're going to switch gears a little bit and draw on some of
Okay,
your other unique life experiences. So, you actually grew up in the Middle East, correct?
I did.
So, part of that, like, you learned Arabic. Could you offer what are some tips in learning Arabic specifically, but in general, how can someone go about learning a language?
Ooh, okay. So my Arabic journey was a bit of a just kind of a lifelong like learn as I go. I had some classroom
Yeah.
time, and then years where I was out of the classroom and just having to figure it out as I went, and then some time back in the classroom, which very much helped my Arabic, and I'm super thankful for it. But um I would say the main thing in learning language is whatever you're able to learn, like if you're like in a classroom setting or you're just having to pick it up kind of as you go, like with the people that you're around, if you're taking down notes of like of words that you're learning and trying to implement them in your daily life and just like get them in your brain experientially, like the words I remember the most are the words I said, messed up at, people laughed, I laughed, and I didn't forget it again because I
Yeah.
didn't want to do that again. And so, and deeper connection was made. And so I found that for me, but I'm also an extrovert, so not everyone functions like this. Like before I really knew the rules, I was just saying stuff out loud and trying to say it and just hoping it eventually came together. And actually, and eventually it did.
Yeah.
So, and then picked up grammar kind of along the way and afterwards as well when I got to actually into some formal Arabic and fixed my grammar. but um but I found that like implementing it into my daily life and just using it when I could, um and using it like whenever I could, like my new vocab word that I got, like even if it's just a couple of new vocab words, like trying to plug that into conversation, like just ingrain that back into my brain.
Yeah. Yeah, good idea. That basic idea of whatever you learn, use it. And the more you use it, the more it sticks. But if you never use
Yeah.
it, what's the point? Yeah.
Yes.
And then this is probably going to be the biggest and maybe the hardest question of the interview.
Okay.
So, in that experience of growing up in different cultures, interacting especially with Arabs, what would you say are some of the similarities and the differences between Arab culture and American culture?
Um, which American culture are we talking about?
Yeah, that's a great question.
American culture in the South,
Yeah, we'll say the
or
South, like where you are now. What's the same? What's different?
similarly, I would say there's some similarities in high values of family, of the importance of being around family, with family. If you're in more of a rural setting like I am, kind of like the slow pacedness, more relational focus of life
Hmm.
rather than fast paced, that tends to happen in bigger city settings. And you do have fast paced. If you're in, for example, like West Amman, that's like Amman, Jordan, that's like much more like fast paced, kind of like a little more difficult, but there's still like that core of familial values. So I would say that's similar. Depending on the Middle Eastern context,
Hmm.
patriotism would be something else that's similar.
Hmm.
Usually most Arabs that you talk to are very proud of their country that they're from, will wave their flag, claim the dish as their own, claim the dialect as the best dialect, the music is the best music, everything is the best in their country, hands down. So I would say probably in the South, that's something else that's similar.
Yeah.
Because, we're the best is kind of the mantra. So, oh, I froze. Can you hear me? Okay, cool. And differences, a lot of differences. I mean, the primary one would be an honor shame context versus righteousness and guilt conversation, kind of how shame affects the community in Middle Eastern culture versus how what I do, like I'm guilty, but it only affects me individually. Like it may affect my family's reputation, but not to the extent that shame affects a family in a Middle Eastern context if something happens.
Yeah. Could you give an example maybe for people who have never heard of honor shame, don't really understand what that is?
Yeah, so I like to think of honor shame as two really, I mean, shame can have a lot of different connotations to it, but I like to think of shame as like in a Middle Eastern context as a very communal word. So if I was Arab and I decided to go rob the bank down the road, like what I did now not only affects me, but brings shame onto my entire family.
Make
Um,
them look bad.
it makes them look bad, but it
Mm-hmm.
it carries a lot of it carries a deeper weight. It's a heavier
Mm-hmm.
weight than is guilt. Like whereas like if I decided to go rob the bank, people would be like, "What's going on with Meredith?" But they would still continue to trust my parents. They would just assume me as like the rogue child that was just kind of, I guess, had a moment or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
So that's a weird example, but I like to think of
Mm-hmm.
honor shame as like when there's honor bestowed, it's honor bestowed on the community, on the tribe. When there's shame that's felt, it's shame felt by the entire tribe and by the clan.
Yeah, that's a good explanation.
Yeah.
Sounds like you got a lot out of your experiences growing up in different places around the world.
Yes, I am a mixture of things. I'm a little bit Arab, I'm a little bit American. I'm kind of a conglomeration of both. So both are so intertwined that it's just kind of a mix of some things.
Yeah, if they obviously this is impossible, but if someone somehow gave you the choice to redo your whole life, um, would you change the living overseas, or would you have you enjoyed your time around the world?
Oh, no, yeah, I totally live overseas. Yeah. No, I wouldn't change that. It broadens my ability, like the context that I'm working in right now is the community I'm working in is primarily African American. It's a different context than is like my family or like my American context, so to speak. Like culturally, just like them as a city, like function differently than other African Americans do in this other city. And so I think having global experience allows me just to kind of put on my learner's hat and
Huh.
relearn things and learn how they function, and to assimilate in a similar way, like I would overseas. And so it kind of broadens and it gives you a love. Like I just love to learn how people function and know why they do what they do.
Yeah, yeah, it does give you a pretty useful set of tools that you could take and use anywhere in the world. Just plop you down in a different place among different people, and it may be a little rocky, but you'll figure it out.
Yes,
Well, Meredith, thank you so much for joining us today on Wandering Middle Eastern Teacher.
absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, our pleasure. Um, and you, fellow wanderers, stay tuned for the next interview. We have more travel guides being planned, and of course, more interviews with teachers, experts from around the world coming up for you. Remember to click like and to subscribe. Thanks. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.